I know it look different. We're on a Saturday. Look, man, when there's news to break and a show to do, I'm in the building. You're listening to the Urban Sports Scene. I'm Wole. The homie Ray Jeezy is out. Before we dive into this episode, we gotta knock out some logistics and some particulars. You can check our website, which is the urbansportscene.com. You can also subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and other podcast platforms. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. Make sure you subscribe to the Urban Sports Scene YouTube channel as well. If you're in the YouTube chat, we accept super chats. Super chats help us support the show. So these super chats will be prioritized overall within the comments. All right, don't forget to tweet us at Urban Sports Scene. Hit us up on IG and TikTok at Urban Sports Scene, and like our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Also join our Urban Sports Scene Facebook group. Just search Urban Sports Scene, sports bloggers, sports podcasters, and sports debates. All right, let's get right into it. Let's get into our tradition, the pregame. Here's what we have on tap. Talk Nats. Kevin Nibley will join me to talk about the Washington Nationals trade deadline moves. There are a lot of interesting moves. Kev's going to be in the building to help me discuss that. So let me not waste any time. Let me get my homie Kev right on. And what's going on, Kev? How you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
It's good. I mean, look, like I told you before we started recording, I'm a little tired. I play some basketball. I'm a little older, so my knees are they're not what they used to be. But
I hear that. Yeah.
I'm here to talk to one of my good friends out here in this space, which you don't know, it's you, Kev.
No, I know.
Before we start about the Nats. We're both wrestling fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're more of an AEW fan, but today is SummerSlam, still one of the big pay-per-views out there in wrestling. Period. Are you going to tune in, or are you going to probably catch it later?
Yeah, I'll probably tune in. The really big WWE stuff like the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and then SummerSlam. I'll try to catch it. So yeah, but to be honest, I'm not totally up on it. But what is the main event? Is it CM Punk?
It's 2 nights. So tonight would probably be CM Punk versus Gunther.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And for the belt for the title, and then night 2, I'm guessing it's Cody versus John Cena.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I vaguely followed their. I usually get more into them around WrestleMania and kind of follow whatever that match is going to be. But yeah, I'm a little out. I All In was really good though. I think.
Oh, I know. That's really good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. So no, I do think AEW is actually their products, and now that they have Darby Allin back and. Some of that, I think their product's been pretty good lately.
Oh, it's been very good. It's been very good. I think that we're gonna talk about the Nats, so I just want to make sure folks know this. I just think that they found their lane and just stayed in themselves. I think AEW is the best when they stay true to themselves.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
Not about being like anybody else. I could be wrong. Actually, I forgot Roman's on this. Roman's back. It could be Roman and Jay versus Braun, 2 of the Brons as the main event, because Roman is when Roman's back, he's always main event. Anyway, let's get into all this Nats talk. All right, the trade deadline passed. Obviously, Mark DeBartolo, who is the Nats interim general manager, he made some moves. So first off, just off what you saw, how would you grade the Nationals' overall approach in the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think a solid B. Maybe B-, but they did okay. They traded most of the guys that you would have expected them to. They got rid of Finnegan and Rosario, Soroka, and those are guys that you figured would be on the move. It was a little surprising that they weren't able to move Josh Bell. I thought that there might be a taker for him. He's actually been. He had an awful start, but he's actually been hitting the ball pretty well the last couple months. An OPS over 800. I figured someone would take him, but nothing came together there. And then Nathaniel Lowe was another guy. He hasn't had the best season, but you figured maybe if the Nats ate some salary, they could move him to a team. He could have been an interesting change of scenery guy. So those were the 2 moves I was a little surprised that neither Bell nor Lowe got moved. But overall, they moved a lot of people you'd expect, and they got back a few. They didn't get back any whale prospects, but they got back a handful of guys that now kind of slot more in the top 10 to 20 of their top 30 in the organization. So, they improved their depth in the minor leagues, but they didn't land it. We didn't get back a James Wood, or we didn't get back like a Dylan Cruz or some big name guy that's going to get the fans excited. We got back kind of a lot of mid-level guys that don't help the system's depth.
Yeah, I do, like you was talking about guys you were surprised. Are you surprised that Gore wasn't included in any trade because of what he could have got back to the organization?
Yeah, like if they had traded Gore, he would have gotten back some big, sexy
Yeah.
prospects. Guys
Yeah.
in the top in MLB's top 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Gore one's really interesting because obviously, if they traded him, that it would have brought them back a bunch of upper end guys.
Yeah.
They have Gore for 2 more years.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that the 27 season, there might be some issues. I don't know if you saw that story where Bryce Harper got into in Rob Manfred's face in the Phillies, when he came to visit the Phillies about the salary cap. Like, so I think the 27
Wow.
season could be, a lot of people feel like the 27 season might be in jeopardy because they have to redo
strike?
Yeah, or a lockout, I guess it
Oh,
would be.
okay,
But yeah,
lockout,
but they're talking about a salary cap. The players don't want that. It's going to be a whole thing. So, trading someone like Gore might have made sense because you have him for next year, and you only have him for 2 more years. But if the second year you have him, the 2027 season gets canceled or shortened, maybe now would have been a good time to get as much as you can for him. But for whatever reason, that didn't come together. I wouldn't say I'm shocked they didn't move him, but it's also interesting too because DeBartolo is the interim GM.
Yeah.
I've been saying this. If he's just the guy if he's just keeping the seat warm till the end of the season, and they're going to go try to get a different GM in the off season, then maybe you don't want to have him make a move as big as trading Gore. Maybe you save that for the guy you're going to hire. So that could have played into it too. But yeah, no, it wasn't. The deadline wasn't as big as some Nats fans expected. Like, some Nats fans were expecting Gore to go. They're expecting Luis Garcia, the second baseman, to maybe move as well. The Nats didn't do any big moves like that.
Do you expect for him? This is a question for you then. Do you expect for him to be the general manager moving forward, or do you think they'll get their own, bring another guy? What do you think?
I don't know. If I had gun to my head, I'd probably say that they'll keep him moving forward. The learners, that's sort of the same thing that happened with Rizzo.
Yeah,
Rizzo was the number 2 guy back in the day, and to Jim Bowden, I believe. And then when they got rid of Bowden, Rizzo just slid in, and it was his job. So they do. The learners don't really have this history of going outside the org and making these big splashes with in the general manager side, at least in the last 20 years. So, I would think it might be his job. But again, I will say the fact that they did have kind of a mild deadline, maybe he is just keeping the seat warm. I mean, I will say the state of the Nats right now isn't great. They got destroyed last night. I mean, I had the game on before I jumped in here.
They're down 5-2 right now. They're down 5-2 right now.
Yeah, they weren't looking so good today either, right? So, I mean, to me, it's like, if the learners are serious about owning the team and keeping the team, then maybe trying to make a big splash. I don't know if a Theo Epstein's available, but or they could go after the guy from Tampa. His name's escaping me right now. Neander. I think Eric Neander's. Maybe they need to do a big splash in terms of a GM, or maybe just even a manager going to get someone like Joel Madden, something like that. So so that's a thing where I would say for DeBartolo, maybe he is just keeping the seat warm, because I do think the ownership of the Nats is going to have to do something soon to keep the fan base carrying, especially with how good the football team, could be, and the hockey team's good, and the basketball team's even coming up. The basketball team's getting more interesting, at least.
Yeah.
So I do think the Nats are going to have to do something to keep fans interested.
I mean, the basketball team is. I mean, they're trying. I mean, they're bringing in talent with the reduction. The reduction's about this. It's about the same. They are bringing in talent. To your point, though, there is excitement because of young talent. But I do think that but the Nats had that type of excitement going into this season. Well, I think the last couple of years going into this season, because people saw gradual progression. Obviously, things have kind of went awry in this season. But like we said on the last episode, I was talking to you about during the last episode, I think the talent is still there. And about Gore, I'm kind of glad they didn't trade Gore, because again, if you feel like your talent can kind of within the next couple of years, You still need you got an ace. You got an ace right now. So you're not forced to trade.
Mm-hmm.
Not forced to trade him right now. If you do believe that you got a guy like Woods who can help you, faster than fast you more. He can fast you now rather than in the future. You know what I mean? He's already here. The future's already now for him, right? So I do think having an ace, because it's like when you do get into a situation, say you are contending in the next couple of years, right? Or to get to the postseason, you're going to want to have an ace. It's good that you have one right now. Like you already have one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, I've said this a lot this season, but this team is so close, but yet so far. I mean, it doesn't look good now, but I mean, what if in the offseason, there are a lot of pitchers available this offseason?
Yeah.
What if ownership cared and they bring in like a Dylan Cease or someone like that to put with Gore? Then all of a sudden, all right, the top of your rotation isn't horrible. You have a top rotation at that point. I mean, you bring in, a different DH or someone to actually put behind Wood so they can't just pitch around him and see. It's the team does have a lot of pieces, and I do think that with a few signings, it might not make them like a World Series contender, but I think that they could make a few moves and have them more towards 500 or vaguely in a wild card chase next year with the talent. I mean, they have the hard part, like you said. They have the ace. They have. I know Wood's been slumping, but he'll be fine. They have a slugger. They have a really plus offensive middle infielder in CJ. I mean, they do have some pieces. So yeah, hopefully, I do hope this offseason that they actually try to do something, try to make some kind of a splash just to get the fans back into it, because it has been kind of this season's been one of the more bummer seasons to be a Nats fan. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's kind of rough to watch the games lately.
Yeah, it's tough, but I do think that just like anything, it's in baseball. Certain times you can have that magical season, like the next year could be the magical season. What's the name of the pitcher who's out this year? Number 40. His name is like kind of like
Josiah Gray.
Yeah, Josiah Gray.
Yeah. He'll be back next season.
Yeah.
They also had a Cade Cavalli who.
I know Cavalli. That's what I mean. They got arms.
And he got hurt. Sadly, Travis Sakura, who is their top prospect, he just had TJ, so he's not going to be in the picture till like 2027 probably. But no, they do have. Yeah, they have Gray. They have. I think Cavalli will probably see him on the mound.
This year, right?
We'll probably see him down the stretch.
In September, right? We'll probably see him in September, right?
Yeah. So they do. They're not. It's not like all dire. I do think it looks pretty bad. They look like one of the worst teams in baseball because they have been over the last few months. But I think a few moves here, a few moves there, they could at least be much more competitive than they've been. And hopefully in this. So that's it would be interesting to me in the off season if ownership goes in and brings in like a more famous GM or brings in like a guy like Madden or a coach a manager who people know, maybe does go out and sign a pitcher and a slugger. I do think that it's kind of at the point where they kind of need to do something like that. I think another year of just rolling out the prospects and hoping something happens. I don't know. I feel like you got to give the fans something. To hold on to, and maybe keeping Gore as part of that. Maybe they realize, maybe they didn't want to get, they realized trading your best pitcher, after firing your manager and GM and all that would have, sent the fans in a frenzy. So who knows? So maybe that was part of the logic there as well.
I agree. You got to you do have to show that you're trying. I think that's very important. Like in any ownership team or a front office, you got to show that you're trying. Like there could be a plan in place to cut time to build everything up in terms of like building this team in terms of getting them back to winning, getting to being able to win a World Series and things of that sort. You got to show the fans that. As long as you show them, I think fans will still be around and support the team. But back to the prospects. All right, can you tell us about the top prospects the Nats acquired and maybe some immediate standouts?
Yeah. No, the ones that were most interesting, I think, to baseball fans were two of the pitchers they got back from the Dodgers for trading Alex Call. Sean Paul Linyon, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He's probably the most interesting guy they got. He's a pitcher that now MLB Pipeline, I believe, has him at number 10 in our system at this point. He's got a really interesting changeup. People have compared it to Devin Williams' airbender. He's got like a
Ooh,
really
okay.
plus changeup. I don't know if ultimately he'll be a starter or reliever, but that's an interesting arm. They also got another pitcher from the Dodgers, Eric Swan, who's more of a big. I want to say he's like 6'4", 250, like a
A big
big,
boy.
yeah, big boy, yeah, power pitcher. He probably profiles more as a reliever.
Okay.
But both guys are, now, since they acquired him, I believe they're both now in the top 15 of,
Okay,
in
that's
that 10
good.
to 15 range.
Good.
The Nats prospect. So it definitely helps organizational depth. That trade. Another guy that people are excited about is Christian Franklin. He is an outfielder that we got back from the Cubs for Mike Soroka.
Yeah.
Some Cubs fans are bummed that they traded him. He's in AAA and he's hitting over 800 OPS. He's doing okay in AAA, so he's probably not that far from the
That's
majors.
good.
I don't
Okay.
know if we'll see him down the stretch of the season or next season. I'm sure if nothing else, you'll see him in spring training next year. But that's another guy that you'll probably see sooner than later.
What position, Kevin?
Um,
What position?
an
He's
outfielder.
out there.
Yeah. And he walks a lot. Like
Right.
I had a chance to look at his baseball references. He's hitting like 250, but his on base is close to 390. So the
Ooh,
guy,
that's
so
good.
he
Okay.
seems like he's got like that suggests he's got command of the strike zone, right?
Yeah.
So an interesting prospect there. I mean, the Nats are pretty loaded on young outfielders at this point with
Yeah.
Cruz and Hassel and Lyle and Wood, but again, this helps organizational depth, and then also it helps. I don't think we'll see all of these guys get to the majors necessarily and play together, but hopefully, if the Nats maybe do want to make some noise and make a trade, like the Nats need another good young pitcher, right? Like the Nats
Yeah.
need some starters to go with Gore because
Mhm.
Irvin and Parker have not really done it this year.
Mhm.
So maybe some of these guys that they got in this deadline could be repackaged for a starter to help them in the future. And then they also got a couple younger guys, a shortstop, Ronnie Cruz, who's 18 years old. So we'll see. But yeah, the guys I just mentioned, Lignan and Swan and Franklin are probably the three most exciting guys they got in this deadline.
That's awesome. So, are any other than the ones you mentioned, or where are they going to be slotted in? Are they going to be in A ball, or a lot of these guys are going to be double A? You said
Yeah,
there's only one triple A. You said
yeah,
one triple A.
Franklin is close. He's in AAA.
Oh, right now, okay.
Lignan, I believe, is A plus. I believe
A
he's in
plus. Okay,
Wilmington.
gotcha.
Swan, I believe also might be around that A plus
Okay.
level. Yes, so not So really, Franklin is the one I believe at the moment that is closest. They got a guy from the Yankees, Clayton Beater, who
That's for the what's
or Rosario. Yeah,
Rosario.
he was a much more heralded prospect a few years ago. He's had some injuries, but I think he might be. I have to look, but I believe he's in AAA as well. So that might be a guy. He'll probably end up being a bullpen. I think he's transitioned to bullpen work already coming up, but that might be a guy you'll see, if not down the stretch this year, next year. But Beater and Franklin would probably be the closest. The other guys you're probably not going to see for a couple years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy because I was listening to a baseball podcast, and I always thought, because I knew it was like his father. I always thought his father was a good baseball player, Fernando Tatis. And I always thought his father was great with Texas. And I was hearing someone say, like, when the Padres initially brought him into the organization, like he wasn't supposed to be like this highly touted prospect, and he kind of like grew into it to be this top prospect. So it goes to like saying, like, obviously these deals, like what you're saying right now, it may not be the sexiest deal, but within the Nats organization, if they can find ways to improve these individuals, make them better in terms of obviously player development, maybe that player can be a highly touted player.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, one thing to always keep in mind, Juan Soto wasn't he wasn't like a top, back like in 2017, Robles was the guy that, he was in the top, he was the man, right? And Soto was further down the list.
Sure,
And, like, I remember back then we were trying to trade for JT Real Muto when he was on Miami, and you know, we would have traded Soto for Real Muto, but we didn't want to throw in Robles, right? Because Robles was the guy, and we've also had guys like Carter Kaboom was this monster prospect
Yes.
that didn't pan out, you know. But then you have other guys who aren't, necessarily ranked that way. So yeah, prospect rankings are certainly an inexact science, and
Yeah.
that it's just the sport of baseball is so interesting, you know, that you have hundreds of players in your organization just to fill 25 spots. You know, it's not like in the NFL that, you know, you have like a practice squad of 300 people to, to fill it.
Yeah.
In Major League Baseball, you do, right? So yeah, it's an inexact science. I remember Mike Piazza back in the day.
Oh, he was
like
undrafted.
They drafted him as a favorite. I think like
Yeah.
Tommy Lasorda knew his dad or something,
Yes,
and he
that's
picked
it.
him at the very end. You know, and then he ends up being like probably, you know, one of the greatest catchers of his generation, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you just don't know. So yeah, no, you definitely want some quantity, and you know, and it's yeah, you're throwing at a dartboard, and you hope you hit with some of these guys, you know, for sure.
Yeah, Mike Piazza was like one of those, because, you know, MLB draft is like so long and back, so he's one one of like the last people drafted back, you know, and like you said, look what happened with his career. But so for you, which trade stood out to you the most, either in a positive or negative way?
Yeah, I think the Alex Call one was probably the most interesting, just in terms of what they got back. You know, the Dodgers gave up some decent prospects because Call is still under control for, I believe, 3 or 4 more years. You know, so that one was kind of, and that was a little unexpected. Obviously trading Call makes sense because we have so many. You know, we have Hassel, Lyle. Dylan Cruz will be back soon, you know, Wood, right? So we already have a bunch of young outfielders, so it makes sense to kind of move on from Call. But yeah, I was a little surprised the Dodgers wanted him and gave up what they gave up to get him. So I feel like that was a positive trade, and I do think the return they got for Soroka was pretty good, all things considered, because so those would be the two I think that were the best trades they made. In terms of disappointment, yeah, I guess just it's more like not so much a trade they made, but a trade they didn't make. I was really surprised they didn't trade Josh Bell. That one just seemed like a no-brainer. Maybe there just wasn't the market for him, but that to me just seemed like even if you were getting back next to nothing, you would do it if for no other reason than we have one of our prospects, Yohandy Morales, is in AAA doing pretty well, and seems like, you know, it might be time to let him come up and try first base out. You know, so just to me it seemed like you'd probably want to clear out Bell and Lowe, so you could bring him up and see what he can do. So I was a little surprised that nothing happened there. To me, that getting rid of Bell wouldn't have been something to drive a hard bargain on. You know, someone else, you take what they, you know, right? It seemed to make sense to get him out of here, just to open up a spot and see what you have in Morales down the stretch. So I was a little surprised they didn't do anything there.
You know, I'm an Orioles fan. You sound like me when it comes to Tyler O'Neill. I'm like, why is Tyler O'Neill still on my roster?
yeah.
But we talked about him, and obviously he was a top prospect. And you said he was struggling in terms of Elijah Green. We surprised he's still like? Would you have been surprised if he got traded, or is it still too early to kind of give up on him?
Oh, for Green, I don't know if they would. It's like that's a tough one where, like, I don't know what kind of market he would have. I mean, a lot of times though, some organizations wanna. I feel like, you know, Green would. You know, it's rare, I guess, to trade. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
You know, of like. He's a guy with, like, his physical tools, you know, his athletic tools are so amazing that you figure at some point, you know, the Nats might get a call on him just from another organization who thinks they can fix him. And he also still young. I mean, he came out of high school. So even though he sort of has this failed prospect, or at the moment, I mean, I think the kid's like 21 or 22 still. It's not like he's 30 or something. You know, so you know, that's an interesting I hadn't really thought, you know, I don't think many of us have thought about the Nats trading like from their minor league system, you know, necessarily. But Green is an interesting guy in the sense that, it wouldn't shock me if like the Rays or the Dodgers or some of these other teams that have player development, you know, systems that are I guess thought of better than the Nats, wouldn't be interested. It's like in the NFL, you see that all the time. Guy fails in a bad
What?
situation, and then
Yeah.
a team like the Ravens or some of these teams that always seem to figure it out. Can make a trade for him, get him in their system, or like the Patriots back in the day when they were good with Belichick.
Yeah.
They could just take some guy who didn't work out somewhere else, bring him in, and all of a sudden he's great. So yeah, no, Green's an interesting guy. I do feel like they want to see what they have with him. But yeah, but he's a guy. I don't know. If he'll ever make the majors. You hope he
Yeah.
can, but I just don't know if he has the hit tool to do it. But I think at a certain point, there's like a Rule 5 draft for minor leaguers, and maybe maybe at some point they'll have to decide whether to keep him in the minors. But I feel like he'll just from his physical tools, his power tool, and his speed tool, he'll get a lot of rope. I'm sure he'll have a few more years here to hopefully come up with something and work his way to the majors.
So, because I always I wonder, like, if, say, for instance, say the Nats are in a situation, and I'm not to say like he's gonna be the prize chip or anything like that, because he's still like he's struggling in the minors. But like, say like next year, they're fighting for a wild card, right? And they want a veteran pitcher. Is he in play to be traded? You know what I mean?
I would. Yeah, no, he would be interesting for another team in that situation. I don't know if he would be the headliner of the deal. Just because his prospect, he's kind of fallen off.
Of course.
But if I was a rival GM, and let's say hopefully the Nats are actually 500 doing better and they need like some bullpen help, I might ask for him as a throw-in, of course, because it's just intriguing. You wonder if we can get this guy maybe with our development guys that we believe in, maybe we get him with some different coaches, who knows, right? So, he's still in, I don't even think he's in the top 30 anymore of Nats prospects. I mean, again, the guy was taken 4 or 5 overall, and he has just amazing athletic tools. It's a bummer that like he just can't hit a baseball consistently. But he's got everything else, right? So, he is an interesting prospect for sure.
Because I know the O's used to do that all the time. Certain teams like Tampa used to do it too back in the day. Like teams typically, a guy who's been deemed a bust, who was a highly talented prospect, like what they would like target those individuals, like to bring them in their organization.
Like Chris Davis, I want to say, he was a little bit of a bust at first. Was he with Texas when he first started?
Yeah, he was okay. He wasn't like horrible like when he was in Texas. I want to say, like, I really want to say, actually, I want to say Adam Jones, but I think that's a little stretch. He wasn't a bust, but he was a highly talented. I want to say Adam Jones. That's not a fair one. A good one, I would say one that's the Cubs had a real good one, and the Orioles took a flyer on him. And I forgot his. I want to say he's Dominican, and I could be wrong. My man Ray said he loves the hat. Kev Ray's on Instagram said he loves the hat. Ray
can I plug something? I know we usually do.
Go ahead.
I'm glad he brought that up. I wore it. I'm hoping someone might like it. But yeah, we're actually I'm doing. We're going to be doing like a little fan shop, a little clothing thing that's going to launch in September, and this hat's going to be kind of part of what we're selling. It's our old DC hat. It kind of looks a little bit like an old another baseball logo or whatever, Montreal logo. So yeah, no, we're gonna be kind of doing a little t-shirt shop and hat shop, and we'll be live in September. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'll try to plug that more when it's up. We're just kind of waiting for everything to get finalized with the state so we can sell things, but that should be happening next week or two. But so I'm glad you like the hat because they will be for sale. We have a bunch of varieties of them, and we're excited about it for sure.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Ray. Yeah, because Ray. Yeah, I do like that though. I like that. Ray, I like the hat too.
Thank you.
I've seen it on Instagram. It's a nice hat. But yeah, so I mean, it does happen. You see it, and the player will come to me eventually. I'm trying to think because he was like one of the top prospects. We didn't pan out with the Cubs, and the Orioles brought him in. So it does happen. I think it happens towards like a team that they'll take a flyer, or if if they're not trading. So the Nats, it may be a team who may aggressively be trying to search out like Green. There's a possibility. They are a bad team. They may be a horrible team, but they don't have the money, obviously, to kind of be the Yankees or be the Dodgers or whatnot. But take a flyer out on him and say, you know what? If he pans out, we got time. We're in a rebuild. We can do it. Like, it just depends.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah, Green. I think just being a baseball fan, you hope that somehow he's able to get it together enough to see what he
Mhm.
would look like in the major leagues, for sure. Whether it's here or with another organization, but we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, we definitely should. We definitely. But hopefully, hope he does okay. I remember when he was everybody was so positive about him. I remember.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I want to say he has like an 80 grade power tool, an 80 grade speed tool. I mean, it's just he just can't make contact with a baseball consistently enough, and he strikes out at a crazy rate. And
Yeah,
but if somehow they can work on that, again, like you're saying, yeah, like Chris Davis didn't start, is
yeah,
he started slow. Josh Hamilton as well. I want to say it took him till he's
yeah.
27,
Oh,
28 to figure it out. There are a lot of guys that take
Buxton
till
Brian.
they're
I think Buxton didn't
yeah,
start
yeah.
off with awesome either.
Eh,
Like I remember watching him,
yeah.
and now all of a sudden I watch him now, and I'm like, this is not the same dude.
Yeah, a lot of guys it takes till 26,
Hmm
27 to figure it out. And again, Green's only 22, I believe, something
hmm
like that. So he certainly has some time. And you hope that, he can put it all together for sure.
Definitely, definitely. All right, so are you surprised? Sorry, I asked that question right before. So in turn, I was saying like, I looked at my list of questions. I'm like, all right, I asked that question. So how do you feel like these trades reshape the Nationals farm system and player development timeline? Like, what do you think now, with it all being put together? Where can we say, all right, we can see one? Where do we look at the Nats farm system now compared to like it was before the trade deadline? And how now do you look at it like, all right, the Nats if these players can pan out, the Nats will be a successful team in what year?
That's a good, great question.
Uh-huh.
I would hope. I wish I could say I was like bullish on next year, but I'm not unless they really go out and they sign a bunch of guys. I do
Uh-huh.
think I think the opportunity is there. If they go out, they sign top of the rotation pitcher and a slugger, and
Uh-huh.
maybe sign a cheaper like a 4 or 5 starter. Then I think you could piece together a rotation there, especially with Gray and
Uh-huh.
Cavalli coming back. And but yeah, in terms of the guys we just got, I don't think anyone we just got in this deadline changes the trajectory like of next year necessarily.
Uh-huh.
Get like Franklin's the closest to the majors, but I
Gotcha.
don't know if he's but again, like you don't know. I don't know. Maybe he comes up down the stretch this year and he turns into a slugger, and you're like, okay, cool. We got he's part of the picture. It's hard to you don't really know until these guys get to the majors what they can do. 'Cause there are a lot of guys who have great numbers in AAA, and then
Oh
the
yeah.
second they get to the majors, they can't cut it. So
I know.
but yeah, because they didn't really trade. If they trade someone like Gore, they would have probably gotten back a player or two that would really change how you feel about next year's team. But I'll say that the guys they got back at this deadline are more depth pieces. The guys that can potentially help the bullpen or the back of the rotation in a couple years. And yeah, a guy like Franklin might be in the lineup next year if he does well. I don't, it's hard to say. But yeah, no, there wasn't like a mega move that's where you're like, it's not like when they got James Wood and CJ and
Yeah.
Gore for
Shit.
Soto, and
That was
you're like,
good.
oh yeah, these guys will be up in the next year or two, and they'll
Uh-huh.
be, I don't think we did anything like that. But the other thing about the Nats that's interesting is I mean, a lot of their guys are, House looks like he should stick at third. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not hitting a ton of homers yet, but I mean, he looks good on defense. He hits the ball. Lyle and Hassel look like one of them should probably
He
play
just had a
next year
homer.
with.
Hassel had a homer today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and with and Cruz, and obviously what you have in Wood and CJ.
Uh-huh.
And Cruz definitely, I think he'll be the center fielder when he's back and healthy. So it's not insane to me if all these young players kind of take a step up at the same time, and you get like a veteran or two, you definitely on the pitching side, and maybe a slugger. To put with them, it wouldn't shock me if they could sniff around 500 next year if the things break right. But it's hard for me to say like, oh yeah, the Nats are going to contend and they have this window where they're
Uh-huh.
going to be dominant. And that's mostly because of the pitching. I just, other than Gore, the starting pitching's been kind of rough, if we're
Uh-huh.
being honest. And, and,
Yeah.
and, you don't, when you look at guys like Parker and Irvin now, last year they were better. Last year you thought,
Yeah.
oh,
Irvin
they
was
could
good
be,
last year.
Yeah, they could be like mid to back end guys and stick. Where now you're kind of like, like I don't even know if they're going to be part of the solution moving forward, really, other than maybe just like a fifth starter. So, I'd say just unless they completely revamp the pitching staff over the offseason, it's hard, and also with Travis Sakura getting Tommy John, he's not, a month ago, I would have said he'd be probably starting on our opening day roster next year and be our number 2 behind Gore. But if that's not going to happen now, it's yes, I think the Nats need to figure out their staff before we can think about them contending on any level. Sadly, but like you said, there are a lot of pitchers available in free agency, and
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe the learners will wake. They finally woke up and fired Rizzo and Davey. It seems like they cared. At some point something happened that made it
Some,
seem like yeah, right. So maybe
yeah.
they care now, and maybe
Mhm.
they'll hit it hard in free agency, and who knows, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if they just kind of keep the status quo going and keep doing what they've been doing of just signing these kind of fringe veterans on 1-year deals. If they do
Mhm.
another offseason of that, then it's hard for me to be too optimistic about next season. And I think the Nats are looking more at 27, 28 potentially before you see them rise back into contention of any kind.
And Kevin, you may or may not know what. So where are they ranked now in terms of their minor league system? Is it before the trade? Before the trade deadline?
Oh yeah, and
Before
that's
the trade deadline.
a great question. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
They were somewhere in the middle
Okay.
to the back middle, and I think they're probably still there. I think their
Yeah.
system's gotten deeper, but they didn't like add any headline. Their
Yeah.
top,
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
like Linyan, I believe, is now our 10th ranked
Yeah.
prospect, and that was he's the highest ranked of any of the guys we got. So
Mhm.
it's not like we made this huge change. And also prospect rankings that were, you, like guys like Cruz and House aren't on that list anymore because
Yeah.
they've graduated with
Of
their
course.
service time. So so that drops the system, right? Because those two were
Mhm.
like at the top, of our list, but now they're major leaguers or considered major leaguers. So, so system drops. But yeah, the Nats definitely are not. We're not a top 10 minor
Okay.
league system, and nothing we did at the deadline. It's not like we made some
Of course. Yeah. I know. I
light
got you.
years jump.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because that can change. Like we discussed earlier, that can change in a couple of years depending on the player development portion side of things.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And these prospect lists are, I mean, it's funny to me around this time of year in the trade deadline. There's a lot of writers out there and a lot of people on Twitter or X or whatever that are all, they're all prospect experts. And oh my
Of
God, and
course.
I can't believe that this team traded their 12th ranked guy in their system and blah, and
Yeah.
then like 5 years later, the guy never had a career. You've never heard of, and then there
Yeah.
are other
Yeah.
guys, or they're guys that are really heralded and they're going to change, the game and all that. And then they come up and they hit 200, and then they never really become a major leaguer. And then there are other guys you've never heard of who come up and turn into stars. So it's a super inexact science.
Oh
The
my
most
God.
of any sport. I mean, it's in the NFL and NBA, especially, you can figure out who's probably going to be good at an amateur level pretty
Yeah.
quickly. Where, yeah, Major League Baseball, who knows? So yeah, a lot of baseball people get really excited about prospects, but to me, I
Mhm.
always take it a little bit with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
Until you really see these kids in spring training at least, or see what they can do against major league pitching, or major league hitters. You really just don't know. It's hard to look at a baseball reference of what some guy did in high A somewhere, or you don't even
Yeah.
right, and project that he's going to change the franchise. So.
Yeah. Especially when you're done with high school kids. When like not,
Yeah,
I think it's more easier. I mean, not to say it's easier, but a kid out of college, the projection is they're going to be in be on the big leagues. If they're a high draft pick, they're going to be in the big leagues in a couple of years, in a season or two, to be honest with you. But when you're getting and when you're trying to scout out and project what a high school kid's going to do, and when they're in the system, when they're going to kind of when the light bulbs like that when that switch hits and when they turn it up, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to kind of put together. It's not easy at all. That's why minors, to your point, like you already know what type of prospect in other sports. You pretty much have an idea. Now all this is still not an exact science, but you have a better gauge on who's going to be that dude or that female compared to like when you're looking at baseball. It's so hard because the minor league system kind of weeds everything out, but it's so hard.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's yeah, could not be more of an exact science. And then also, you have injury, I
That
mean, like
too.
a lot of these pitchers end up looking great in the minors and then they need a TJ, and then that
So true.
throws everything off. And yeah, no, it's definitely yeah, an inexact science. But yeah, but yeah, in terms of what the Nats just did, they improved the depths of their system for
For
sure.
the
They improved
most
that
important.
mid range from like in their top 30. They added a bunch of guys in that 10 to 20, 10 to 25 range. So they're deeper now than they were. But yeah, they didn't add any superstars or guys that at least on paper or via the prospect gurus. We didn't add anyone that we're expecting to be up and be some young rookie of the year kind of star next year or anything like that.
Now, but later we will see. That's how I look at
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
later we will see. All right.
Mhm.
So, how should it, fans for you? Like you're saying, like I know what you're saying, but for like if you had to give a message to the fans, how should fans interpret the deadline in terms of the rebuild trajectory of this team?
Yeah, I think they helped their depth.
Okay.
Some of these guys that they got, hopefully when a team is competitive, if they're competitive in the next couple of years, these guys might be like Linyan, or maybe
Mhm.
he'll be a 4 or 5, or Swan, maybe he'll be your 7th or 8th inning guy, and maybe they'll fill these depth roles so that when the Nats are good again, they don't need to go trade for everyone else's setup guy or
Mhm.
everyone else's 4th or 5th starter, right? So they added some guys that hopefully could fill supplementary roles. I don't think they added anyone that's going to be a superstar, at least
Mhm.
on paper, that's going to change the direction of the franchise or lineup right off the bat or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, for Nats fans, it is a tough it's a tough time right now because I think a lot of us expected more
Yeah.
progress this season. The last couple seasons were pleasant surprises where the team did a little bit better than maybe we thought. And we figured this year would be the year where they would take a step forward and hopefully be close to 500 or maybe even on the fringe of a wild card if things
Mhm.
went right. And obviously, they were looking okay. They were like 30 and 33, I want to say, at one point. And then
Yeah.
the wheels fell off. They had that 12-game losing streak, I think it was. And obviously they fired everyone pretty much, and there's going to be a whole new, whoever they hire manager next year, I'm sure will bring in all new base coaches, like a whole new thing, and they might even bring in a whole new GM. So it's definitely a transition period. But I will say it doesn't look good. But I don't think, at least where they are on the bright side, you do have some interesting young players, and
Mhm.
Wood and CJ and Dylan Cruz should be back, and Hassel looks good. Lyle looks solid as well. You know, and to me, it's not crazy if Josiah Gray or Cade Cavalli come back and at least are decent, like mid to back end rotation guys. Then you really,
Got
it's,
something.
yeah, you need like maybe to sign a top 3 pitcher,
Yeah.
with to put with Gore, and then you're getting and if you
Getting
decide maybe
close.
a bigger bat to put behind Wood to actually truly protect Wood, then maybe you could flirt with 500. And if
Mhm.
some of these kids kind of take a step up, I mean, I guess the thing to be excited about is at least most of the guys in our on the roster now that are starting are in their early 20s, right?
That's
So
great. Yeah.
these guys will only get better, and sometimes so it's better to have that than a bunch of dudes in their early mid 30s that might
Mhm.
fall off a cliff next year. So at least I guess I say as a Nats fan, it's hard for me to see next year being worse than this year. I
I
think
kind
this
of agree.
year is yeah, yes.
I
I
agree.
mean, I don't think we're going to go back to only winning 50 games like we did a couple years ago. And I
Mhm.
don't think, even though we fired the coach and the GM and all of that, I don't think we're like restarting this rebuild where we're going to have to go
Oh,
back to like being
I
awful,
agree.
like completely awful again. I do, but again, I don't know. Next year could be a 70 win year, something like that. It's hard unless they sign some pitchers, to put with Gore at the top
Mhm.
of the rotation and another and a slugger to put behind Wood. It's hard for me to really see them contending or being 500 next year. But we'll see. Again, like you said, you never know in baseball. And I don't know. Maybe some guy like Robert Hassel figures it out and he turns into a stud. Or Dylan Cruz comes back and maybe he finally puts it all together and he's this electric prospect that we all thought we were going to have. And then all of a sudden the team looks pretty good. So hard to say, but it shouldn't be worse than this. Like, next year shouldn't be. I don't see it being worse than this year. I guess I put it that way.
No, I think they pretty much sent out an easy message saying that they're not doing a total rebuild. Like well, recycling the rebuild. Put it that way.
Mhm. Yeah.
I feel like because they still have what's my the second baseman Garcia, right?
Garcia, yeah, I was wondering if they were going to trade him.
See, so
Yeah,
that gives me a sign that like, all right, I like my young core is okay. It's still good enough. I feel like we need to
yeah,
add pieces. We can trade away like some of the other pieces because they're not in the grand scheme of things. They're not for the long run. They're not for the long haul. Like they're not. So I
yeah,
feel like they kept a young like some of the players that are on the fringe. They still see potential in, and I think that they know they can add on to it. So to your point, I do think that it's going to be telling who they try to target in the off season. But my prediction now, I think they're going to target some vets who can help out the young guys that with the guys that they do have coming back. Because at the end of the day, pitching, if you can have solid, good pitching, you can compete with anybody.
yeah, yeah,
And if those guys, the young guys, like where you're referring, like the young guys who can be coming back, if they gonna if Josiah Gray, Kabali, like add in with what we've seen with Gore, if Irving bounces back, like
yeah,
you could be good enough to compete, and with the extra wild card, to be in the race. Not to say that you're going to get it, but to be in the race. And I feel like you add a couple of vets with that. I feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's not a bad position to be in. I get what if let's say the Barlow is the GM. I understand it. I understand adding a good manager, the guy who can manage all of that. I can understand that movement.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see who they hire at manager. I doubt that they're gonna give it to Miguel Cairo.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah.
definitely keeping the seat warm, I would
Yeah.
think.
Oh, yeah. That's
But yeah, no, I mean, with the right manager that maybe can relate to these players a little differently or get a little more out of them. I remember when we had Dusty, he was like a whisperer for hitters.
yeah,
He
yeah.
got Michael A. Taylor to have
Oh my God,
his
he's
best year, and he had Defoe was pretty solid
yeah,
for him, and I don't know, but yeah, like I definitely I'm hoping with whoever they hire at manager, maybe I think they need someone with a little swagger, like when they had Davy Johnson, or I think they just need
Oh yeah, David was
a,
good.
a different vibe to kind of just like relax these kids, because it's a bunch of kids, really. I mean,
Yeah,
um and anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they target. But I do think with the right manager, and then maybe if it, not that I expect it, but like let's say they did something like go get Pete Alonso to replace Nathaniel Lowe at first base
yeah,
and put him behind Wood, and then maybe you get a guy like Cease or Michael King, from San Diego to put with Gore at the top of the rotation, then you're like,
yeah,
that could be like a 500 team,
yeah.
with everyone else, and so we'll see. It's again, it's yeah, so close, but yet so far is how I feel about the Nats, and it looks pretty bad, but I do think it's not like a total. The organization, excuse me, the organization's in much better shape today than it was in 2022, right? Like
I
they
agree.
have some good young prospects, they have some young stars, they have some young guys who haven't become stars in the majors yet, but could, and Dylan Cruz or Robert Hassel, or Brady House. They have some potential. So it really, even though it doesn't look great, yeah, a couple moves here and there, and they could be decent. I don't think they're going to be like serious contenders or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
for
I
quite
got
a
you.
while, but yeah, they could get closer to 500 for sure, and at least and I think that's all fans around here would want or be happy with, is just a little more competitive than they've been. And they definitely need to do something about their staff though, because it does
Hmm.
seem like almost every night now, if it's not Gore pitching, we're getting bombed
Yeah,
basically. It's been pretty bad. So hopefully they can figure out the staff for next year.
definitely. I just like to your point. If you can bring in a veteran starter, because you got a bunch of young guys, bring in a veteran starter and hope that the other end, like the two we talked about, can get healthy, or healthy enough. It's all also I would say it's all about what Cavalli, right? It's Cavalli.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Cavalli. It's all about what Cavalli can do when he can. I believe he'll pitch in September. It's all about what he does in September. If he shows everybody that rocket arm he had prior to the Tommy John surgery, the potential that everybody, like he was the top prospect, I believe. He was the top prospect, wasn't he?
He
In all of
Yeah,
baseball.
I don't know if he was all of baseball, but he was up there. He
He was
was
up
on the
there.
top. He was on the top 100 list
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly,
And I
exactly.
can't remember exactly how high he got, but
Yeah,
he was definitely one of the Nats' top prospects. And
yeah,
I want to say before the 23 season, when he got hurt, he was probably going to make the major league roster. And
yeah.
he had pitched a game. It was a spring training game against the Mets down the stretch of spring
Mhm,
training where he
mhm,
hurt himself, and that was a bummer because I think in that game he was. I think he had been like through 4 or 5 innings, only given up
mhm,
a couple of hits and was looking great. And
mhm.
then that's when he got hurt. But yeah, I mean, I think he's still recovering from his injury. He's had a couple starts at AAA that have been like so,
What is he
but
throwing? What is he throwing now? It's like what is
I
he been
think it's,
clocked
I think
at?
he's still like 95, 96. I don't know if he's
Okay,
like higher than that.
okay.
But yeah, he like you hope that he can stay healthy and
Of
put it
course.
together because worst case, he could fill out the back end. We don't
Yeah.
even necessarily, if you sign another starter in the offseason, you don't necessarily need Cavalli to be this
Number
electric
two. Oh yeah,
stud.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely,
but if he
definitely.
could fill out 4 or 5 and like
Yeah.
not, we do need pitchers that have ERAs under 5. Like we do need that. Like, right. That's a need at the moment.
Yeah.
So yes, I don't, whether it's Gray or Cavalli, if even if either of them could just kind of throw out like a 4.5 or
Oh,
4.2,
that's perfect
that'd
for
be
the
great.
back.
Yeah, put
Yeah,
him in
for
the
for
back,
back
and
end. Yeah.
and then get Gore, get someone for the top with Gore, and then you have what's looking like a major league rotation at that
Yeah.
point. And but yeah, I'm hoping. We do hope with Cavalli and Gray they come back and have some success for sure, because
Yeah.
they were highly regarded prospects that
Yes,
unfortunately
they
had
were.
they both had TJ, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. And like that's the thing. So if they could just pan out, I mean, to your point, you sign a good vet, and depending on what like the Nats want to spend, like it's no, you don't. It doesn't have to be the sexiest the player, but it has to be a consistent vet, like a consistent vet.
Yeah, no, that's what they need. I think,
Yeah.
I think Low is okay. That like he was good the first month, but then
Yeah.
he's fallen off. He's been like just okay. And
Hmm.
then Bell was like god awful pretty much for the first 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
but then he's kind of come on lately. But the problem is it's never happened at the same time. It's like if
Hmm.
Bell's gotten better, like Low's been bad.
Hmm.
It just if you had it all at the same time, then yeah, like you could sort of see what maybe Rizzo was thinking
Hmm.
with some of these moves, but it just hasn't. Yeah, it hasn't panned out that way. Yeah, it's like one of those cartoons with the holes in the boat, and you plug. As soon as you
Yeah.
plug
Like
one, the other.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like as soon as Bell starts hitting better, but then like Low is awful, and vice versa, right? In
Hmm.
the beginning of the season, and yeah, they haven't really been able to have any depth in their lineup. This whole season's mostly been like you have CJ and James at 1-2, and then after that, who knows? And like yeah, some nights they get hits from Garcia, Low,
Yeah.
Bell, and then they look like a half decent team, and their lineup looks pretty decent. But
Yeah.
then too many nights they don't get anything after 1 and 2 in their lineup, and they're easy to pitch around. So that has been the issue, this
Yeah.
season.
Again, I think. I mean, like I said before, I think they have potential. I'm not saying it just because we're doing the show. I just think the Nats have potential.
Yeah.
I watched what they did to my Orioles. Like I looked at it and I was like, oh dang, like there is potential. They play hard. They play a certain way, and it's like something about having young energy, right? And they play baseball in a joyful way. So, I do believe that like again, you screen the right vet, just like what's the guy who looks like Edge? uh,
I know it.
You know what I'm talking about.
Jason Worth back
There
in
you
the
go,
day.
Jason Word.
Yeah,
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 just like when they signed Jason Word,
yeah, yeah.
it's
They did.
like that type of player. I feel like can help the organization out.
I think I do think it's time for them to do a move like that this offseason.
Yeah.
I think the fan base needs a veteran
Hmm.
to get excited about, a free agent to get excited about. And also that'll help the kids, that
Hmm.
maybe, I know that Wood's been in a slump lately, but if you get some big name veteran, maybe Wood doesn't feel like he has to hit home run every time he's up
Agreed.
for us to win, right? Like,
Agreed. Yeah.
you add a few more depth pieces, these kids don't have as much pressure because, and I think that's what helped the development of a lot of the guys we brought up during our first run. Like,
Yes.
when Harper came up, he had Worth and he had
Yeah.
some other, so Harper could be himself, and it took Harper a couple years to become the star. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until 2015 where you saw like, okay, this guy's a superstar. And then, when Turner came up, he had Murphy and Harper and all these other guys. So
Anthony Rendon.
yeah, Rendon. Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
They had other veterans ahead of them. That,
Mm-hmm.
you could bring, like, I remember Rendon in his 2014 season. I think on opening day we had him hitting eighth. It's
Yeah.
like you're not, but right now we're bringing up, it's like our best prospects have to hit 1, 2, or 3,
Yes.
right? Because the rest of the team, we don't. Yes, I do think adding some veterans could help with that. Could help take the edge off some of these guys. So you could hit, Brady House eighth or something, and then he doesn't have to feel like he needs to hit a home run every time, or he needs to be like in this big RBI spot cleaning things up. He can just kind of like learn the game a little slower, and but yeah, they haven't done that, and they haven't signed anyone. Like, they haven't signed someone to a multi-year deal in a while, other than I think Trevor Williams was like 2 years. But it's been a while since they've gotten a big free agent for like a 4 or 5 year deal at
Mm-hmm.
20 million a year, like anything like that. I know Schwarber's available next year. That would be an interesting guy to bring back to be a DH.
Yeah.
I, I feel like they need to do something like that just to get the fans excited,
Yeah.
even if it's just, even if there's a lockout in 27 and the contract isn't like amazing the whole term. I think they need to do something next year, kind of like what the Wizards used to do when they got like Russell Westbrook and they went for when they went for the ace seed. I know a lot of Nats fans would say, no, we should keep tanking and build this up the right way and keep getting these number one picks. But I feel like for the fan base to care, I would be totally fine with them making a few moves and chasing like an 80, like trying to win 83 games next year, maybe at a wild card, just something so you can watch them every night. Because I'll be honest, they're hard to watch every night these days. It's like getting hard, I have season tickets. I like gave him my little cousin today. I have like a little 18-year-old cousin. I'm like, dude, you want to go seats today? Like, it's just like it's been rough lately. So I think they need to do something to sort of get the fans that they have, and especially the season ticket holders and people paying money to go see this team, to want to, like, I'm already probably not taking as many games next year unless they do something right. So and I'm like a super fan, right? I come on podcasts, I do all this, right?
Yes.
So if me as a super fan's like,
that's crazy.
Like, maybe
that's
like
crazy.
Instead of 20 games, maybe I'll do 10. Like, maybe I don't need to go so often to watch this.
Wow.
No, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. They need to, the ownership needs to try a little harder. I mean, we got to get real with that. They have to try a little harder for sure. So
it's crazy because, like you said, when you say that, I mean, obviously that's a thing that people want to, they'll just be back for a while and just build the minor league system up. But I feel like the Nats have been bad. Like
they've been bad for a while.
Well, so they don't,
I think I'm ready. I'm ready for them to not be bad.
I think the minor league situation should be okay. Like, it should be decent enough.
Yeah. I mean, and when you look at you look at the starting lineup. I mean, we don't even have room. The whole outfield's kids. The outfield's gonna be Wood, Cruz, and whoever wins between Lyle and Hassel and all that. I mean, the infield's pretty set with CJ and Brady House, and I mean, maybe Garcia. I could see them still trading him. Maybe I don't know if they're good. Garcia's in it for the long haul, but I mean, but when for a team as bad as we are, when you look at like the open spots, it's really catcher. Like, Ruiz has been horrible. We need
But he was highly touted. Like
he was too.
Yeah, but he's not that far removed from actually having a good year. Right? Was it the year before last, or was it?
Yeah, I think it was like the 23 season. I want to say he got hot down the stretch and hit like 20 home runs, and people are excited. And then like I want to say it was last year, he had like I think he maybe got COVID or some really bad flu right at the beginning of the season, and like lost 20 pounds of muscle, and just and this year he looked. I remember that first series against the Phillies, he hit home runs on opening day, I think, and the second game, and you're like, wow, okay, maybe this is his breakout year. And then that was his last home run. He hasn't hit a home run since like April 2nd, and then now he's injured. And one of the issues with Ruiz is they kept running him out. Like Davey played him like he was prime Pudge Rodriguez or something, like let's play
Yeah,
him, or Molina or something, where
yeah,
let's play him 7 games in a row and never play the backup. Where I think if they get a veteran catcher to pair with him, and maybe you just do it
yeah.
50, like back when they had Suzuki
Oh, that
and
was good. Yeah, it's
Gomes,
good.
yeah, and it was a little
Yeah, it's
closer to a
good.
50-50
Sure.
timeshare. Yeah, but the thing is, as bad as the Nats are, it's like they have an opening at catcher, they have an opening at first base, and they have an opening at DH. And if you keep Luis Garcia, that's it. You don't have, for as bad as this team is, you don't have any other openings in your lineup under these 3 spots, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, if the learners can fill those 3 spots with some veterans, and you let the kids roll with the other spots, I don't know. They could be okay if they get some decent starting pitching. But we'll see. I hope the learners finally care. They
Yeah.
cared enough to get rid of Rizzo and Martinez. So I'm hoping that means they'll care enough to do something this offseason to at least move the ball forward a little bit and give the fans something to, at least be a little excited about it. I don't think they're going to compete with the Mets or the Phillies
Uh-huh.
next year, but I think they could do a little something to get us a little more towards the middle of the pack in the league and not kind of bringing up the rear in the standings.
Well, we hope it happens. Hey, what's up, Lou? I see you in the chat. Thank you, Lou. We'll see. I feel like again, they're not far off in terms of the talent they do have. I do think that like a first baseman would be awesome. A power third first base would be awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't given up on Ruiz personally. I haven't, and plus it's hard. Like I'm gonna say this much. Let's see what manager they bring in because, like you said earlier, there's something about injecting confidence in a young player, and I
Hmm.
feel like if you lost your confidence, if you bring the right manager and you have the ability and the talent in baseball, a manager with that type of, like you said, bravado, that type of swag can bring a lot out of you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, absolutely.
I do believe that. I think it's not a date. I'm not here to knock Davey Martinez. Everybody knows if you listen to this pod for the last couple weeks of years while Davey got here, like you could tell how I feel about Davey. But I do think there are managers out there that will help the development of certain young players. And I don't think,
Yeah.
and I feel like they're out there. Your guys you've mentioned, there are out there have been guys who have improved young talent.
Yeah, no, that could, again, yeah, as bad as it looks, to me this isn't like some crazy renovation project type of
Yes,
thing. Like
exactly.
you
That's my
you bring
point.
in the right person,
That's my point.
make a couple good moves. It's
And
not it's not like wild to me that this team could be half decent
it's not
soon.
the White Sox.
No, no, yeah, you're not.
Not the White Sox.
Yeah, you're not like, yeah, you're not like the scorched earth thing where we
Yeah,
need to like trust the process and tank for 5 more
yeah,
years. Like I definitely do not think we're
yeah,
anywhere near that. I mean, yeah, again, the positive is that we do have a lot of young players in the starting lineup, and Lyle like looks like he should be a major leaguer.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
getting, you see him getting better. I
Mhm.
still like Robert Hassel a lot. He was, at the time when we traded Soto, he was the number one prospect that came back in that deal, and he hit a home
Mm.
run today. I did see
That's
that.
big. That's big.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and he had been doing well since they sent him down to AAA. I know he'd been doing well in Rochester. So, and Cruz, I think he's on a rehab, and he'll be back up soon. So they do have some exciting young players, and
Mhm.
obviously CJ
Oh my
CJ
God.
and Wood are
Yeah.
superstars, and they're young. So
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, a couple free agent additions and maybe the right different kind of coaching staff for sure. What David did in 2019 was great, but you could see this year
Yeah.
he looked like a dude who'd lost his passion, right? Like he looked
Yeah.
like a guy. He just looked dead in the dugout when he come out for pitching change. It was almost that like, oh, do I have to do? He's like, like, do I have to do this? Like he just did not look like he had much passion left for that job. And again, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know, but that's what it looked like, right? Like we all saw
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, maybe getting someone with a little more fire, just something that, I'm glad that they did that shakeup. I do
Yeah.
think that the organization needed it. And hopefully this offseason will be a little more of a shakeup in terms of maybe they actually sign some veterans that can help the team and they try to win some games as opposed to just kind of just
Just
doing
be
what they've
there.
been doing, which is just like content to finish fourth or fifth. So hopefully they try a little harder. We'll see.
I said this last show, but like with me and you, but bold prediction if they bring a manager I like, I can tell you what's going to happen with them. But they'll bring in a man like they'll be better. I just think they'll be better next year. Like I don't even care. I don't.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not even about bring. And I'm gonna be as blunt as I'm gonna be as blatant. I mean, as blunt as possible. It's not even gonna matter who they bring in. They'll just be better. Watch. They'll be a better team. It will be like night and day. Because I'm going to give whoever they bring in, even if it's DeBartolo or whoever they bring as general manager, they will bring in a manager that can manage those young guys correctly to play baseball the right way.
Yeah, no, and that is the thing is, I mean, oh my Lord, like during Davy, I mean, some of the air, like, there was
I'm
an error
serious.
on it,
Yes,
error on the
exactly.
infield every night. There's a
Yep.
toot plan. Someone gets thrown out on the bases every single night.
Yep.
A lot of the same mistakes over and over and over. Like, guys like Soroka who are really good twice through a lineup to the fifth inning. You'd be in the fifth inning, they'd only given up a run or maybe not even a run. And then, Davey pitches him in the sixth and he gives up five, right? Because he's not a
Mm-hmm.
guy that can do that, right? He's a twice through the order kind of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the same mistakes over and over. Almost like you could almost predict it. It was almost like a game of bingo where it's like, okay, like some point someone's going to get thrown out on the bases. This is going to happen. It is happening every night. So you do hope, yeah, like a new manager with some maybe a little more fire, just something to change the culture. They definitely are neat. I think they have the pieces there.
Mm-hmm.
They have some pieces that could make them good before long, but I do think they need like a full blown culture change. It just feels like as a fan watching a lot of not amazing body language this season, a lot of the same mistakes over and over. So yeah, hopefully they'll bring in a new manager that gets a little bit of fire, a little bit of attitude would be great.
Yeah, that's definitely on the list. Hey, Kevin, before we end this show, again, I want you to plug the hat and the merch.
Thanks, man.
Plug the
Yeah.
merch. And
Mhm.
also tell folks about Talking Nats and anything you want to plug.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. Thanks always
Mhm.
for having me. Always a
Anytime, Kev.
pleasure.
Anytime.
Yeah, so Talk Nats, talknats.com. It's the best Washington Nationals baseball blog on the internet. Again, I talked about prospects today. You go there, you read articles. They'll get like way more in depth than anything I said. They go really deep on that kind of stuff. And they're also on Twitter at Talk Nats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at K_Nibley. And then, yeah, we have this project that we're starting that we're going to launch in September. It's going to be called Old DC Apparel. We're on Twitter now. It's at Shop Old DC and it's
Awesome.
shopoldc.com. We're not live yet, though. We're still waiting. The state of Maryland sending the little corporate kit. Like we're waiting to get everything
All right.
set. We're buttoning that up, but we expect that to be done in the next month. And we're looking to go live for the first week of football. But what's going to be cool is like this hat's one of the things we'll sell. We have some football products, some baseball products, just some like general kind of lifestyle little trinkets,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But one thing that we're really excited about is we're going to be doing like shirts like let's say something happens week one in the Commanders game, like there's a big play or something that gets everyone excited.
Yeah.
We'll have like a shirt on Twitter like that night that you can
That's
buy,
awesome.
and we're
Okay.
gonna keep the prices fair. We're not like selling like $40 shirts, $80 hat. Like we're not trying to rip you off. Like we're trying to
Okay.
keep the stuff under $30, like fun stuff for fans, like original fan gear. So we're really excited about that. Give us a follow now or go to the website and put your email in and we'll let you know when we're live. But we're thinking like right around Labor Day, right around that first week of the NFL is when we'll be ready to have everything live and start taking orders. And I'll definitely hit you up for some retweets, I hope. And let me know.
Yeah.
And
Oh
we'll send you
man.
guys, if you guys don't wear anything on the show, we'll send you all some merch.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
We'll
Yeah.
definitely talk. I'm already you already got me. I'm already down to support. So just let
I
me know.
appreciate, yeah, but yeah, that's a big thing I've been working on this summer, and I'm excited to kind of have it live in a couple weeks. And thanks for letting me plug it. So yeah,
Oh yeah, no
if you
problem.
like this hat, we have it in a few different colors. We have an all black one of this that I think is really awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see, but yeah, that's something we're excited about. And look for us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. It's just at Shop Old DC, and we have a bunch of cool stuff coming for sure.
Okay. Well, you let me know when it's live, and I'll retweet.
I appreciate. Yeah, it'll be the first week of September. Yeah, is what we're hoping for. So
all right, then that's gonna happen. Then we're gonna do that, and I will because I want a hat. I will purchase a hat.
No, we will. Yeah, we'll hook you. I'll give you that. I'll have a friends and family price. We can get you stuff. We can get you stuff. Yeah. No, and he said we're definitely looking. Because we're brand new, so we're going to be looking to just build awareness that we exist. So yeah, any help? I'll get it to you at like what it costs me or whatever. We'll hook you up. Don't worry.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate you, Kevin. Appreciate you. Okay, look, y'all. I'm gonna have a fresh hat. It's gonna happen. I'm kind of excited. I'm gonna have a fresh hat. So in September, you'll see me rocking it, and then I will promote it. That's what
All
I
right.
do.
I
Will
appreciate
promote
it.
it. All right, folks. Thank you all for pulling up and tuning in. Anyway, you've been listening to the Urban Sports Scene for ages. Yeti deuces. We are out. Peace. Swag.